first of all, why should lawyers understand about sustainability? Why is it important not only for lawyers, but for every community, every individual, every business, and every society to understand about sustainability? So, first, let's look at it from a legal perspective. In the last 5 years, there's been a marked increase in climate litigations, which could be anything as simple as if somebody is constructing a building by cutting down the trees in that area, somebody else objects to it by filing a case against them, to somebody objecting to the opening up of a company or to the running of operations because they are not adhering to climate related rules and regulations. Again, even though there are rules and regulations and laws on environmental sustainability in India, there is a need for more stringent laws because the current laws are not enough with the rapid advancement in industrialization that is going on currently. And lawyers, a group of lawyers can act as champions for justice on sustainability aspects because they have a lot of potential to advocate for sustainability as one of the most important topics that should be taken up in courts of law. And of course, like the initial video that was shown by the program for legal awareness in education, lawyers can influence societal and ethical dimensions. That is another reason. And routine corporate governance and compliance are actually also a part of sustainability. Now, initially, we'll have a quick introduction on what sustainability is, and we can further understand on how corporate governance and routine jobs are also a part of sustainability. And how many of you here have heard of the UN Sustainable Development Goals? Are some of you familiar with it already? The UNDP's Sustainable Development Goals.
In the chat, most are saying no, they're
Right.
not for.
Okay. So recently, the UNDP, United Nations Development Program, came out with 17 goals on sustainable development, which every country across the world is trying to work towards. All the governments, all the businesses, all communities, companies, etc., are working towards achieving these goals, which also we will have a look at further into this presentation. But first, to understand sustainability as a holistic concept, we'll just look at its definition first. So this is the most popular definition of sustainability. Sustainability means meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Simply put, this means that we don't just use everything that is there right now and leave nothing behind for our children. So that is what sustainability is. Sustainability means we should engage in activities that help us as individuals, as communities, as businesses, as governments to sustain over the longer term. It is to have a long-term vision in whatever we do. Actually, sustainability has been a very evolving concept. The first understanding of sustainability was as a three-pillar concept. The three pillars are economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, and social sustainability. So it means that sustainability is not just about climate change or global warming or environmental aspects. It covers all three dimensions, which is for a company, for example, to sustain in the long run. Financial performance is also important. Sustaining financially is also important. So that is economic sustainability. And social sustainability is nobody in this world lives without a community. Everybody has a give and take relationship with people surrounding us. So sustaining rich relationships with various stakeholders in our ecosystem is important for us to be successful in the long run. So that is what this means. But initially, this three-pillar concept was understood as economic sustainability being in a separate silo, environmental in a separate silo, and social in a different silo. Then gradually, as people started working on this concept and implementing sustainability initiatives, the understanding evolved into these three concepts having interconnectedness, which is environmental sustainability does have an impact on social sustainability. Because if there is an industry located somewhere, there's a factory somewhere, and they're having impacts, environmental impacts on their surrounding communities. They create water pollution, air pollution. It affects the community that they are located in. And again, economic. When a business is established somewhere and they start operating there, they start generating jobs there. They start hiring people from local communities. So economic sustainability also has an impact on social sustainability. And the availability of qualified individuals in the community with access to opportunities is also important for this company to hire from the community. So social sustainability has an impact on economic. Again, focusing only on profits might increase the company's negative environmental impact. So that has an impact on environmental sustainability. So people started realizing that these three concepts are interconnected and have intersections. So we have one initiative cannot be implemented without affecting another. But the most recent understanding of sustainability is this, which is the society, we as living beings and individuals are a part of the larger environment, that is the biodiversity, flora and fauna, the larger environment, the earth that we are a part of. And whatever businesses are a part of this society, whatever occupations are taken up in this society, it's a part of the larger society, because a business cannot run without a consumer. So there is a transaction between two individuals at various points. So a company cannot survive in the long run and cannot make profits without the presence of a society. So this is the most recent understanding of sustainability, and also talks about how each business should be prioritizing various topics under sustainability. So ESG is an alternate terminology for sustainability. So we just spoke about economic, environmental, and social sustainability. So this is an alternate terminology mostly used in corporate contexts, which is environment, social, and governance. So these are some of the topics that come under the various heads. Environment, of course, refers to environmental sustainability. Social refers to social sustainability, and economic pertains to governance related topics, not only profit making or financial sustenance, but also about compliance, ethics, and integrity. I'll let you have a look at it. I'll just give you a minute. So under economic/governance, economic performance, financial performance comes into the picture. Integration of sustainability into the board structure, into the leadership, ethics and transparency, green investments and accounting. So when you're in the service sector, for example, making green investments reduces greenhouse gas emissions by leaps and bounds. And non-financial reporting, just like companies have to publish annual reports on their financial performance and governance, nowadays non-financial reporting, that is ESG reports or sustainability reports, are gaining popularity. Under environment, of course, performance on water use efficiency, water conservation, energy use and efficiency, hazardous emissions reduction, solid and liquid waste management, and impact on biodiversity are some of the popular topics. And under social, I think some of you may already have heard of corporate social responsibility, which comes under the social dimension of sustainability, governance structure, people practices, and customer relationship management. So social sustainability pertains to whatever issues that come up whenever we interact with stakeholders around us, which could mean customers, employees, suppliers, government, and other such stakeholders. So these are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. If you observe this again, these goals are not only about the environment or protection of the environment, or they are not only about social responsibility. It's about improving how we do things in general. So sustainability is not just about adding another checklist of things to do, of data to record, but about essentially improving how we are doing things currently, and improving everything that we are doing to sustain over the long term. So the first SDG is no poverty. The second is zero hunger. Third, good health and well-being. Fourth, quality education, that is access to quality education for all. Fifth is gender equality. Sixth is clean water and sanitation. Seventh is affordable and clean energy. Energy means sources of electricity consumption. Eight is decent work and economic growth. It means that every human being out in this world has the right to decent work conditions and to earn a livelihood. The ninth is industry, innovation, and infrastructure, which is improvements to existing infrastructure so that people have better standards of living, making way for innovations, technological or otherwise, that could improve process efficiency, and improving the way industries function in general. Number 10 is reduce inequalities, that is, no discrimination, diversity, and inclusion. 11 is sustainable cities and communities. So, just before we started this call, Malavika was mentioning about how some cities are becoming concrete jungles. So, SDG 11 is about how to make cities, how to develop cities in such a manner that every place has a balanced ecosystem without affecting the biodiversity that is there. So one of the standing examples for this is IIT Madras, where it's the only place where green cover has increased over the past few years. The next is responsible consumption and production, which means that whoever is producing something has to be responsible about it. They can't just unceremoniously dispose waste. They can't just release whatever they want into the water. They can't consume electricity left and right. They have to be responsible about it. 13 is climate action. Of course, how many of you know about the concept of climate change? Is it coming in the chat, Malavika?
Yes, yes. Participants all can write in the chat box. Everyone said yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So climate change is essentially, the quick explanation is that because we are using electrical appliances so much, we are having so much vehicular pollution, the hazardous gases that release from such sources, they get trapped in the atmosphere. And because of this, the amount of heat in the atmosphere increases and it's affecting weather patterns. It's putting a pressure on the sea because, as you know, heat expands. So sea level rise is happening and it's causing a lot of health hazards and it's leading to the melting of glaciers. So everybody wants to do something on climate right now by setting targets that, okay, we will reduce our emissions by this much. And we will at least plant trees to improve the situation. So this is climate action. 14 is life below water, that is aquatic life. So as you know, water pollution is a looming issue. And by releasing pollutants into the water, life below water is threatened considerably. So that is one of the SDGs. And life on land, of course, flora and fauna on land. And the 16th SDG is peace, justice, and strong institutions. So the reason I've circled this is the existence of laws, rules, and regulations relevant to current situation and adherence to these rules and laws reflects that people in our community, people in our country have access to peaceful societies where they can get justice when they want it. So adherence to law, peace, and justice without any partiality is actually one of the SDGs. So why I'm telling this is many people think that sustainability is only about the environmental part. It is an additional strategy that we have to adopt, etc. So improvement in the way everything now is functioning is actually sustainability. 17 is partnerships for the goals, which is there are so many goals. These 16 goals can't be achieved alone by any business or any government. So we have to partner with various types of experts or NGOs or other organizations who have the specific expertise in these different areas in order to achieve these SDGs. Every country in the world is now working towards it to achieve these SDGs by 2030. So there are only 6 years left, which means that every individual having a knowledge on sustainability is extremely important because it means that they'll just be able to have a multifaceted perspective in order to do their jobs better. So whenever we think of making a decision, for example, whenever there is an approval being given for a factory to be set up, it's important to think about the all-round impact of this factory, like the environmental, social, and economic impact before giving the approval for this. And this also affects the law. This also affects the regulations that define the setting up of this factory. So I'll just show you a quick video at this point.
The world has changed, and it's not just because of COVID. Consumers and employees have increasingly different expectations of the world and the businesses they buy from and work for. Your shareholders and lenders are under pressure from regulators and the market to prove that they're acting responsibly and investing sustainably. All will be making choices about which organizations they work with, so will yours be one of them? Each stakeholder looks at your business through their own lens, and this is your opportunity to choose what's behind it. What is your impact on our planet? What do you contribute to the communities you operate in? And how do you conduct yourself? ESG isn't something you do, it's everything you do and how you do it. It's your license to operate and it's your opportunity to lead. Your ESG strategy must be authentic, embedded in your business strategy, and owned by your board. Your ESG narrative looks right across your business and tells that story to the world. And your ESG metrics help people compare you with others, often via a rating. You'll want to consider how you conduct yourself as an organization and look to the ethics throughout your supply chain. What part do you play in the community? Is your business inclusive? Are you well governed? And is your leadership diverse and set up to hold the business to account? Look at the impacts of climate change, the natural resources you consume, and the waste you produce. Do you pay fair taxes? Treat your customers and suppliers ethically? And do your employees have safe, fair working conditions? And could they speak out if they see something wrong? Understand where you're strong and could be proud and know where you're vulnerable, and then have a plan to make it better. People will expect you to set clear targets and have the data to measure your progress and report it to the world. They'll want the assurance that what's behind the curtain supports your performance and won't let you down. Your metrics will encourage investment and your narrative will talk to your stakeholders. When you're done, you'll have a resilient business set to thrive in a new reality, and you'll be playing your part to make the world a more sustainable, fairer, and better place for everyone. We believe that ESG makes businesses better.
So quickly, I think we could take 2 minutes for participants to type in the chat box on what could be the possible implications of not adopting sustainability for businesses. Could we have some quick opinions on what could happen?
Participants, y'all can either type in a chat box or you can use the raise hand function to unmute you. A participant is saying collapse of the ecosystem.
Yes, that's true. What else? What are the other opinions that are coming?
Extinction of biodiversity. These
Okay.
are two unique ones. Yeah.
Okay.
Other than the impact on the environment, there would be commercial impacts, some legal impacts.
Correct.
We will lose the ISO certifications, leading to the customers not preferring our products or our services.
Correct. Very true. Who was this?
Ma'am, my name is Milind Athavde.
Okay. Nice. Thank you so much. Any other opinions? Right. So this means that, as someone just rightly said now, that it affects basic adherence to law. It affects basic ability for profit making, because whenever we are not, let's take up the governance aspect of sustainability, not having proper governance mechanisms in place, not having a good corporate governance team, not having a good qualified company secretary or a compliance officer itself could affect business survival. And this itself is a part of sustainability, not just the others rightly spoke about destruction of the ecosystem, extinction of biodiversity, etc. But it also affects the ability of a business to survive in the long run, because when we are not adhering to sustainability principles, the basic trust of stakeholders around us keeps reducing. And because of this, long-term survival itself is in danger. And beyond this, if the business is still able to survive by only focusing on profits, it means that it's going to severely affect the surrounding communities, their own employees, right? And their suppliers, and the basic, not just environmental ecosystem, but the entire social ecosystem that this business belongs to. So I hope you now understood that sustainability is not just about conservation of natural resources, but about, in general, adhering to the rule of the land, and also going above and beyond this to voluntarily ascribe to international standards and frameworks to achieve these sustainable development goals. Right. So now we are coming to ESG regulations in India. Actually, globally, there have been a lot of standards and frameworks that different countries have adopted on sustainability. India has also implemented many regulations. This is the timeline. This is how these ESG regulations have evolved. The first hint of an ESG regulation was the Corporate Social Responsibility Guidelines put out by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which was that companies have to invest a certain percentage of their profits for activities that indicate social responsibility. That is, for activities that aim to improve the standard of living of communities. So this came out in 2009. In 2011, again, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs came out with the National Voluntary Guidelines for Responsible Business. This was the basis for the business responsibility reporting standards put out by the SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India, in 2012. Now, it's not just enough that we follow these sustainability principles or that we implement sustainability initiatives. For example, let's say a business is trying to implement water recycling. They treat all their sewage before it's released, and they are planting trees somewhere else to compensate for a factory that they have set up. And they have employee well-being initiatives. They have a supplier sustainability program. But all this, it's also important for this company to communicate to the public on what they are doing. This is what is called ESG disclosure, which is, it's not just enough if you implement these initiatives. You are required to actively monitor them, monitor progress on them, and also report on this every year. Like I said, just like companies have to release an annual report every year, now some companies are supposed to release ESG reports or sustainability reports every year. So the first sort of proper standard that came out was the Business Responsibility Reporting Guidelines of the Securities and Exchange Board of India in 2012. But this pertained only to a business's responsibility and not to the concept of sustainability on the whole. It was only about whether the business is being responsible or not, and largely had only CSR related guidelines. So later what happened is the Ministry of Corporate Affairs came out with the National Guidelines on Responsible Business Conduct. So this had 9 principles which the businesses were required to follow and report progress on. Based on this, the latest guidelines that have come out are called the Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting Guidelines of the Securities and Exchange Board of India. So BRSR, this is a short form for Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting. Now it is mandatory for the top 1,000 listed companies in India to publish BRSR reports. So the main difference between BRR, Business Responsibility Reporting, that came back in 2012, and BRSR is that Business Responsibility Reporting was first applicable to the top 100 listed companies, and then it was extended to top 500 listed companies. But BRSR is applicable to the top 1,000 listed companies, and BRSR has a much more comprehensive coverage of the ESG aspects that we just discussed. If you remember this slide. So BRSR has a more comprehensive coverage of all 3 pillars, and BRSR is in alignment with global reporting standards on sustainability. So this is how sustainability, so like I told, ESG and sustainability are used alternatively, though sustainability is a broader concept and ESG is used largely in the corporate context. Any questions at this point? So first we'll have a look at the CSR guidelines, which still apply now.
Yeah, I have a small question. When you say
Yes.
top 1,000 companies, are you saying top in terms of turnover or profitability, or what? What is the criteria?
It's in terms of turnover only.
Turnover, is it?
Hmm.
Or
Market value. Market value.
Okay. So that means the top 1,000 can keep changing depending on the share price.
Yes, it changes slightly every year. So every year, if you go to the SEBI website, they publish this top 1,000 listed companies list every year. So this year it has come out on 31st March 2024. So there will be slight changes towards the end, right? The last few companies might change and the rank might change. So for example, the previous year, the rank could have been 220 or 221. This year it becomes 230.
And some might drop out of the 1,000 and some might
drop out. This is mandatory as of now, but before this, the BRR was applicable to the top 100 or top 500 companies. Now BRSR is applicable to the top 1,000. And in the future, it may start extending to businesses in general, irrespective of size, right? Slowly and gradually. It's better for companies who are also not in the top 1,000 listed companies to start thinking about sustainability, because, like we saw in that video, it fosters long-term resilience. So if we are not prepared for adopting sustainability principles, there might be some rule or regulation that comes up suddenly out of the blue, and we are not ready to adhere to it. So it's better that other companies also voluntarily start taking this up. The CSR guidelines, so the corporate social responsibility guidelines are applicable to companies that fulfill any of these following criteria during the immediate preceding financial year, which is companies that have a net worth of 500 crores or more, companies that have a turnover of rupees 1,000 crores or more, or companies that have a net profit of 5 crores or more. Net profit meaning over the last 3 years. So if companies meet any of these criteria, they must form a corporate social responsibility committee. It's a board level committee that they need to form mandatorily. They must have a publicly disclosed CSR policy, an annual action plan on CSR, which could be an internal document as well. And these companies are also expected to regularly monitor their CSR activities. It's not just about giving some money to some fund and then forgetting about it. They are supposed to monitor and measure the impact of these CSR activities and report on the number of CSR beneficiaries, the amount spent, the impact of these activities, etc. So many companies, in the name of CSR, what they do is just donate to some fund and then just they think the job is done. But this is how the government, the SEBI guidelines and the describe that a company should be approaching CSR. So under CSR, basically companies are expected to spend for improvement in societal standards of living. So what is covered under CSR? These are the broad themes. So companies in India have to have at least one of these themes in their CSR spend for it to be recognized by the Companies Act. So hunger, poverty, eradication of malnutrition, healthcare, education, skilling for readiness in the for the job market, gender equality, reducing social inequalities in general, and help extended to old age, help extended to orphans, contribution to activities pertaining to environmental sustainability, and disaster management and relief. So, say if someone had contributed to the cyclone relief efforts, that will also come under this. Protection of natural heritage, which could mean probably restoration of buildings, etc. Setting up of libraries, public libraries, preserving traditional art forms. Like, for example, a company is spending to support SHG, self-help groups, women self-help groups that engage in some sort of traditional art form like Madhubani art or Tanjavur art, and contribution to rural sports, advancement of rural sports, contribution to Paralympics, Olympics, contribution to rural and urban slum development, and contribution to government funds. But what is not covered is activities that are performed in the normal course of the business, such as sales or other operations, are not covered under CSR. Research and development activities for the purpose of the benefit of the company. So somebody, let's say IIT Madras has a lot of research going on. Let's say a company is trying to contribute to the research and development. If it is for helping the student alone and there is no other intent there, then that's good. But if they are helping the student to take that solution from him for the company's own activity, then that is not covered. CSR activities outside India are not covered. Political contributions, contributions to election campaigns or other contributions to political causes are not covered. Activities that benefit employees are not covered. And let's say you're sponsoring some competition, that the company is sponsoring some competition and their branding is there everywhere. That is not covered because it has marketing benefits. And activities that are done to fulfill statutory obligations, like because of compliance requirements, they are supposed to do this. These are not covered. This is the essence of the CSR regulations in India. Now, a quick question time. Which of the following do you think is not a CSR activity according to the Companies Act? B is the correct answer. Yes, B is correct. C is still possible because there's no material benefit to the company or the employee because of this. It's just an incentive to the employee. But B is the correct answer because if we are conducting a skilling program and hiring some of them in our company, we are benefited directly because of their expertise or because of their contribution to our everyday operations. So B is not a CSR activity. But A is a CSR activity, even though the contribution is to communities surrounding the manufacturing plant. Even if it means that the visibility of this company will increase, it is justified because the company is trying to address local needs because they understand it better. Correct. B is the correct answer. Okay, so now we'll go have a quick look at the business responsibility and sustainability reporting guidelines and standards and what is covered under each of these sections. Under BRSR, there are three main categories under which we have to report. Section A is general disclosures, which is general information about the company. Section B is management and process disclosures, which is the company might be doing a lot of things on sustainability and otherwise. What are the management systems adopted? What are the processes adopted for this? Section C is principle wise performance. Like I said, the NGRBC, National Guidelines on Responsible Business Conduct principles, are covered under BRSR. So, what is covered under these principles? So, Section A covers aspects like business activities. What does the business do? What are its main activities? Second is products and services. What are the main products of the business? What are the services that it offers? The third is employees and workers. How many employees and workers does this business have? Women's representation. What percentage of women are a part of the workforce? Turnover rate for permanent employees. What was the attrition rate for permanent employees? Information on subsidiaries, associates, and joint ventures. Grievance redressal mechanisms for different stakeholders. And finally, overview of a business's material, responsible conduct, and sustainability issues. Now, on materiality, it's a huge concept and needs a separate session, but I'll give you a quick overview. Materiality means identifying the sustainability topics that are relevant to a business. Let's say we are talking about an auto component manufacturer. For them, material topics that are relevant could be energy use and consumption and emissions from vehicles, right? But for an FMCG company or for a service sector company, for an IT company, the energy consumption is not that much. So it is not as material to a service sector company as it is to a manufacturing company. Let's compare a pharmaceutical company and some other company, let's say an FMCG company. So intellectual property related aspects or cyber security may be a much more material topic to a pharmaceutical company than it is to an FMCG company. So the process of identifying which sustainability topics are important for a business and which ones we need to prioritize in the next 3 to 5 years is the process of materiality. So under BRSR guidelines, a business is expected to identify these material topics and report on them. Any questions on this bit on the material topics? So section B is about management and process disclosures, which is essentially what are the commitments that a company has made. How many of you have heard of net zero commitments? Like commitments to reach net zero emissions that companies have made. You've heard of it. Okay, that's nice.
Ma'am,
So
there is one participant who want to ask a question.
Yes.
Yeah, ma'am, one request.
Yes.
Very interesting session, very informative. Unfortunately, I have lost the initial 17 minutes, and
Okay.
now I'm still having some troubles in listening to your, so requesting you to grant a permission to the PLEA host so that we can later on watch this on YouTube.
Yes, sure, for sure.
Thank you.
Sure, sir. So net zero commitment is a company undertaking a commitment that they will not generate more emissions than what is already there by a certain period. So India as such, our Prime Minister around 2-3 years back made a commitment that India will reach net zero emissions by 2070. So such commitments and goals, targets, all such aspects have to be disclosed in the management and process disclosures. The second thing is there should be a leadership statement on what is the sustainability vision of a business. They are looking forward to a statement from a CEO or an MD or anybody else, a senior person, on what sustainability means to this business and what is their sustainability vision in the long run, performance highlights, etc. And this section also requests for presentation of the governance structure on sustainability. So every business has a governance team, every business has a board of directors and committees under this. They have various team structures, but in BRSR specifically, they want to know if there is a separate team on sustainability. If not, which team is looking after sustainability? Are they monitoring sustainability performance regularly? What are the roles and responsibilities of this team? How frequently are they meeting? How frequently are they presenting updates to the board of directors? This is basically to understand whether this company is actually prioritizing sustainability by having relevant leadership for this purpose, or whether they're simply putting out some targets without actually thinking about it in detail. So section C is the most detailed section on principle-wise performance. So please, I have slides on this, but I'm not showing you slides on the specific indicators because I'd like to ask some questions at the end of this to see if you've understood what I'm saying. So principle 1 is businesses should conduct and govern themselves with integrity and in a manner that is ethical, transparent, and accountable. Basically, it's talking about a company's governance structure, their compliance mechanisms, and the importance that this company gives to ethics and integrity. So under this, companies are expected to report on fines or penalties that they paid during the year transparently, and whether they have an anti-corruption and an anti-bribery policy that is applicable to all their stakeholders. So under each principle, there are both essential indicators, which is these indicators have to be reported on. And there are also leadership indicators, which is companies that are in an advanced stage of sustainability will report on these leadership indicators. So under principle 1, the essential indicators are fines and penalties and anti-corruption, anti-bribery policy. Leadership indicators are what are the procedures in place to manage conflicts of interest between employees or between the board of directors. So from this, I think you must be getting the understanding that sustainability is not, again, only about environment. It's about basic governance structures, basic integrity and transparency. So this is principle 1. Principle 2 is that businesses should provide goods and services in a manner that is sustainable and safe. So this means that if you remember the SDG, responsible consumption and production, they should not just be unceremoniously producing goods and services by creating a negative environmental impact. And this also has other implications, right? If a company is producing a hazardous chemical without taking proper precautions, it could also affect the employees and the surrounding communities. So that's what safe means. And sustainable is by ensuring minimum waste, minimum natural resource consumption. So under this, the indicators that are covered are sustainable sourcing. That is, if a company is producing electricity, for example, are they sourcing only coal or are they sourcing from renewable energy sources like solar or other hydropower, etc.? The second is the company tracking this product's footprint, environmental footprint, until the end of its life? So it just doesn't end with this company producing and sending it out. Is it tracking where this product is going as a waste until the end of its life? So this, again, is the company adopting the 3R principle: reduce unnecessary waste, reuse what is possible, recycle waste where possible? Does the company have an extended producer responsibility plan, which is, are they tracking where this product is going until the end? Do they have a plan for this? Is the company conducting a life cycle assessment? So it just doesn't end only with the company reporting on this product. We generated this much waste and this product has now gone out from our manufacturing facility, so our responsibility ends there. No, we have to track the lives. So these are the aspects covered under principle 2, which is providing goods and services in a manner that is sustainable and safe. Principle 3 is about respecting and promoting the well-being of all the employees in a business. And not just the employees that are a part of this company, but employees across the value chain. A value chain is nothing but the supply chain of a business, starting from the sourcing of raw material to disposing this product, the end consumer disposing this product. So this means that a company should not only care about its own people, but also about the people that the supplier is hiring. Also about the employees of an organization that this company is supplying to. Under this principle, these are the aspects covered. How is the company measuring the well-being of its employees? This is one of the aspects. What are the return to work and retention rates of employees after parental leave? So the reason this indicator is there is if the employees are happy with this company, they're going to come back irrespective of their break because they like the work environment here. The next is what kinds of trainings are imparted to employees and workers. Basically, whether they're training their employees periodically or just having them in these roles without providing proper customized training to the employees. Are performance and career development reviews happening regularly? What are the occupational health and safety systems? That is, if an employee is working in a hazardous manufacturing plant, is he or she provided with personal protective equipment? Is there an occupational health and safety policy? Are there occupational health centers? Safety incidents, which is number of injuries, number of fatalities, and the other measures on occupational health and safety. Principle 4 is about the company mapping its list of stakeholders, which could be investors, the government, employees, customers, workers, suppliers, and many other people. So businesses are expected to make a list of these stakeholders, provide information on how do they engage with these stakeholders, how frequently do they engage, what are the topics of engagement. So this is to understand if the company is regularly getting the opinion of its stakeholders. Principle 5 is about respecting and promoting human rights. So if you've been observing so far, lawyers looking at corporate governance, right? Company law, lawyers looking at human rights, environmental lawyers, everybody has a role to play in terms of BRSR reporting, because these lawyers should ensure that these companies are adhering to these rules and regulations so that this can be reported in the BRSR. So human rights is about whether training on human rights is provided to employees at the company, whether every employee is getting the right remuneration, salary, and wages. Have there been any complaints on discrimination or harassment? The next principle is about the environment, which is what is the energy consumption of the company? What is the water consumption? Where is this company discharging its water? What are the air emissions like nitrous oxide, sulfur oxide? Is this company calculating its greenhouse gas emissions? How much carbon dioxide does this company emit? How much waste is the company generating? Are they recycling any of this? Are they reusing? How are they disposing the different types of waste? What are the other waste management practices? Does the company have an environmental impact assessment? Do they use renewable energy, etc.? And principle 7 is about whether this company is participating in public policy and influencing public policy. Principle 8 is promotion of inclusive growth and equitable development, which is basically how are they addressing local community grievances? Do they conduct social impact assessments? Do they source from local MSMEs? Do they source from local small businesses? What are their CSR projects? Right? And principle 9 is customer health and safety. So are they adhering to product safety regulations, product quality regulations? Are they conducting assessments of their product or services safety? Are they providing proper information about the product on labels, etc.? So I'm not going into too much detail on this because it requires a complete separate session to understand the different indicators. But let's have a quick Q&A session now, which is I'll just ask some quick questions followed by your questions. So sustainable sourcing comes under which policy? Can anybody answer? Which principle? I spoke about 9 principles now. So which principle does sustainable sourcing come under? You can also type in the chat box or speak if you want to.
A participant said number 2.
Yes. How about energy consumption? Which principle does it come under? And how about stakeholder engagement? So I think Vidhi has a question. Thank you. I mean, number 4 is correct. Correct. Thank you, Mr. Manoj. Are there any specialization courses after LLB for ESG? So you could, even if you're studying corporate law, that would fall under ESG. If you're studying environmental law, that comes under ESG. It's not only about complaints. Sushil Shankar has a question on complaints. So on environmental aspects, there's the National Green Tribunal. But for other complaints aspects, it's the existing authorities who are already governing the law in this area. And the other part is many lawyers can also engage in advocacy on bringing in environmental rules and regulations. Let's say you're handling a case on, just a second. Let's say you're handling a case on environmental pollution. There is not yet a law that actually specifically says that this should not be done, but it has affected a community, for example, and you think that there should be a law on this. Lawyers can definitely play a great role in advocating for it. ESG guidelines by RBI, right now, I can't answer this question, but I can, and this is a law specific question, I think, which I can't answer on LLB from Open Universities in Maharashtra. Are there any of the reporting certifications relevant to India? So, getting a training on the BRSR guidelines would greatly help law students in India. And many companies that report on BRSR in India also use the GRI guidelines, which is the Global Reporting Initiative Guidelines. There's also something called the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, which is a comprehensive index on having around 200 questions on sustainability that is answered by many companies. And after this questionnaire is submitted, they get a score. And this really affects investor decisions on whether to invest in companies or not. These are some of the things you can learn about. There are many companies voluntarily reporting on sustainability that are not in the top 1,000. I can separately share a list of these with you. Mostly in the top 1,000, what you'll see is in the last 1/3, many of them just publish a BRSR and leave it at it. The middle ones publish a GRI, Global Reporting Initiative based sustainability report, which is a bit more comprehensive than BRSR. The top 1/3, the top 33% of companies are really making breakthroughs on sustainability by, there are a lot of international sustainability standards and framework. They adhere to this and they have a separate sustainability governance team. They have advanced emission reduction targets, etc. But it is advisable for companies to voluntarily report on sustainability because, like I said, the first thing is the number of companies or the names of these companies that are in the top, not number, the names of companies that are in the top 1,000 changes each year. So it could, any minute, it could start applying to any company that's performing well. And the second thing is for long-term business resilience, it's a good idea to voluntarily report on sustainability performance because, again, like I said, many investors are deciding to invest or not based on the sustainability performance of a company. Customers have started reading the packaging and labels to see if they treat their employees well, they follow human rights practices, is this sustainably sourced, etc. I'm not aware of the specific careers in law with respect to ESG. Yeah. There are no financial incentives, though adoption of sustainability definitely leads to cost savings in the long run. And it affects, like I said, the decisions of investors. So it could very well affect the financial standing of a company. The very point of ESG is that we should not expect incentives to take up reporting. It should be a responsibility that comes from within. The incentive behind the adoption of ESG is the long-term survival of the business itself.
I think we are done with the queries.
Okay. In case anyone has anything, you can also mail me.
Or they can connect with you on LinkedIn, right?
They can.
Okay. Okay, Neharika.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone for listening patiently and engaging so well. I think this was a good audience. Everybody tried to participate and give answers. Thank you, Malavika. Thank you, PLEA team.
Thank you so much, Neharika, for such an illuminating talk. Thank you so much for such an illuminating experience. It was a very unique topic that we did. And yes, it was a great learning experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.